Welcome to the distance learning program presented by Innobus on JSP. Let us do some introduction to JSP. JSP is all about Java Server Page. Java Server Pages technology allows you to easily create web content that has both static and dynamic components. The main features of JSP technology are as follows. A language for developing JSP pages, which are text-based documents that describe how to process a request and construct a response. An expression language for accessing server-side objects. Mechanisms for defining extensions to the JSP language. Java Server Pages helps developers insert Java code in HTML pages. So this is where it helps in doing dynamic processing by making use of special JSP tags, most of which start with scriptlet, and we'll see what is this in later slides of our training. JSP tags can be used for a variety of purposes, like retrieving information from a database or registering user preferences, accessing JavaBeans components, passing control between pages, and sharing information between request pages, etc. Why we use JSP? Performance. Performance is significantly better because JSP allows embedding dynamic elements in HTML pages itself instead of having a separate CGI files. Now CGI I'm talking about because it's a common gateway interface which was earlier before JSP, and JSP came to advance with dynamic content embedding it in HTML page. So this will lead into high performance. Next, compiled before it is processed. That means JSPs are always compiled before it's processed by the server, unlike CGI or Perl, which requires the server to load on interpreter and the target script each time the page is requested. So JSP is over advantage when compared to CGI or Perl scripts because it does compilation before it is processed. Built on top of Java Servlets API. So Java Server Pages are built on top of Java Servlets API. So like servlets, JSP also have some access to all the powerful enterprises Java APIs including JDBC, JNDI, EJB, JAXP, etc. All these are the APIs which can be used by JSP because it is there on top of Java Servlets API. Can be used in combination with servlets. JSPs can be used that to handle the business logic. So we have seen that it can embed Java code within the HTML page. Therefore, it can also handle business logic, the process all the business logic within the HTML page. Therefore, the model is supported by Java Servlet Template engines. So finally, JSP is an integral part of J2EE or JEE, which we call as Java Enterprise Edition, a complete platform for enterprise class application. So JSP, it comes as a web integral part for this enterprise application. Next, we see JSP architecture. Here we have the web server which is required for the JSP engine. So JSP engine will function inside the web server, that is the container to process JSP pages. So a JSP container works with web server to provide the runtime environment and other services a JSP needs. So this is the picture which shows all the clients, can be Windows, Linux or Mac. So all these are the clients which connect over the internet. Typically through web server, it will serve the purpose. So this web server will support JSP by having JSP container and processing all the requests. So JSP files will be stored here. It is shown in diagram where it is having JSP engine to process all the requests, which in turn can access any kind of databases for serving the purpose. So this is the typical JSP container and JSP file shown in a web application. So next we see how does JSP actually process in the real world. If you see, there are many steps involved. So to begin with, the normal page will include your browser, which will send HTTP requests to the web server. So that here in example we can see allo.jsp. This is the file which will be saved. HTML file can be saved as .jsp. So that will convert into JSP page. So here for example it is shown as allo.jsp, which will send an HTTP request to the web server. So the web server recognizes the HTTP request, which is of JSP, and then it will forward it to the JSP engine, which is there in the web server. So this is done by using URL or JSP page which ends up with .jsp, which we call as JSP extension, that is Java server page. So any file, that is text file, can be saved as .jsp. So next step is, once the JSP engine loads in the web server the JSP page from disk, and it will convert it into servlet content. The reason being, the Java code embedded into JSP will get converted into servlet content by the JSP engine. This conversion is very simple, in which all template text is converted to println statements and all JSP elements are converted to Java code, which implements to corresponding dynamic behavior of the page. So as we have seen earlier, JSP will come as a layer over the Java servlets. Therefore, each and every code in the JSP will be processed in terms of servlets. So it will be, the text will be converted into println statements and all JSP elements are converted to Java code. So that is the next step which happens in JSP engine. After that, the JSP engine compiles the servlet into an executable class files, where the Java files are compiled and dot files are converted here. The JSP engine will do this, and after which the forwards original request to servlet engine. So JSP engine, after compiling the servlet to executable class, will forward it to servlet engine. After that, the next step is the web server called the servlet engine loads the servlet class and executes it. During execution, the servlet produces an output in HTML format, which the servlet engine passes to the web server inside an HTTP response. Therefore, the web server forwards this HTTP response to your browser in terms of static HTML content. So finally, the web server handles the dynamic generated HTML page inside the HTTP response exactly as it were a static page. So this is how a typical JSP architecture look and process in this diagram as shown. So basically, JSP engine checks to see whether a servlet for a JSP file already exists. So if it is existing, the modification date, JSP will check if it is older. If it is older, then it generates the servlet. So therefore, if by date it checks if it is older and newer. So this makes process more efficient than other scripting languages which we are comparing with CGI. So in any way, JSP page is really just another way to write a servlet without having to be Java programming wizard. So it just required translation process which happen in JSP engine and servlet engine present in server. So we have seen the JSP architecture, how we work. So here we see what is next in JSP lifecycle. So basically, we have life cycle as shown, beginning with loading and instantiation, before which we talk. The first process is, whenever the request is coming, the JSP page will get translated. So a Java servlet file is generated from the JSP source file. So this is the first step in its tedious multiple phase of life cycle. The translation phase The container validates the syntactic correctness of JSP page and tag files. And then the container interprets the standard directives and actions and custom actions in this translation phase. After translation, the compilation will happen for the JSP page. The generated Java servlet file is compiled into a Java servlet class. So after which we load the class. So the Java servlet class that was compiled from the JSP source is loaded into the container. So once it is loaded, the execution phase, the container manages one or more instances of this class in response to requests and other events. Therefore, the interface JSP page contains lifecycle methods. We'll see JSP init and JSP destroy. After which the initialization will happen in init method, as you're seeing, that is the next step. In this, the JSP init method is called immediately after the instance which was created. It is called only once during the life cycle. So if you see, this is the life cycle. So in init, even if you are seeing, it happens and calls only once during the life cycle. It is invoked only once, where the instance will be created, and after which the JSP underscore JSP service is another lifecycle method where every request of this JSP is processed in its lifecycle. That is, it serves all the purpose of creation of the instances. The next to start with is the Java destroy, that is JSP destroy. This method is called when JSP is finally destroyed after serving the request. So which is servlet serves this purpose and submits itself to garbage collection. During this end of the life cycle, JSP destroy will be invoked. So this is the life cycle, how it functions in JSP. Next, to begin with, we have elements or components in JSP to write, coding or developing a JSP page. So we'll see all those elements. So here in the diagram you can see the elements of JSP as 5 different components or elements which we call as, those are the declaration, scriptlet, action, directive and expression. So these 5 are the major elements of JSP which are required to develop any kind of JSP page or Java server page, and we'll look more into detail what falls in each element. So basically we have to explore these elements in our training. So we'll see these major 5 elements in detail. So the JSP element also have syntax. So as told in any programming language, the syntax is followed, and JSP is very sensitive to it. The syntax must be followed to avoid any compilation errors. So to begin, one of the element which we saw as 5 among elements is JSP declaration. So this is the syntax where we call a scriptlet. The declaration we followed with exclamatory and can be a field definition where you declare the variables what we call, or we can even declare the methods. So all these will be declared under JSP declaration element, and we'll see practical demonstration further. Next is the JSP scriptlet, and this is the basic scriptlet where we just open the scriptlet and put the Java statement in it, and this forms the Java code which can be embedded in JSP page. JSP directive, it begins with scriptlet with at directive and as got attribute equal to value. JSP expression, it is scriptlet followed with equal, so any Java value can be executed here within the JSP page. So these 5 are the major JSP elements in Java server page. So let's, and one more is JSP action. So this action has got JSP tag followed with colon and having action name. So we'll see there are many actions within it. We'll see how it actually works. So next is JSP directives. So directives, one of the element of Java server page, which says it provides directions and instruction to the container telling it how to handle certain aspects of JSP processing. So basically it will give the instruction for the JSP container to handle the processing of JSP tags. There are three types of directive tag. So first is page directive and include directive, taglet directive. So we'll see each of the directives in detail. Page directive. It is used to provide instruction to the container to pertain to the current JSP. And this is very important directive for JSP page. This line or this statement we'll see at the beginning of this JSP page, and this comes at the beginning. So it has got certain attributes within this page. So if you see the syntax of this page directive has got so many attributes, and each attribute specify or signifies its importance, where it says the language equal to Java. So here it means the scripting language used in scriptlets or declaration or expressions in the JSP page are of Java source or Java language. So this is what the language specifies. And next is the extents. So this extent is used whenever the qualified name of the superclass of the Java class is there within the JSP page to be accessed. So any Java class or Java bean is used in JSP extending a superclass, then we specify that package class within this extends attribute. So after which we have import, it will import all the packages necessary for JSP page to be added in business logic. For example, we have javax.servlet, java.lang, java.util. All kinds of packages available in Java can be imported using this import attribute. We have session equal to true or false. It means that whether the client must join an HTTP session in order to use the JSP page. If the value is true, the session object refers to the current or a new session. If it is false, you cannot use the session object at all. Next is the buffer attribute, which actually gives the kilobytes used by the out object to handle the output sent from the compiled JSP page to the client web browser. So the default value of it buffer attribute is 8 kilobyte, and if you specify a buffer file size, the output is buffered with at least the size you specified. So default it will be 8 kilobyte. Auto flash, again it's a boolean attribute, takes true or false whether the buffered output should be flushed automatically or not, that is told by this auto flush attribute. Is thread safe? So whether thread safety is implemented in the JSP, the default value is always true. So which means JSP container can send multiple concurrent client requests to the JSP page, specifying and signifying that it is thread safe. So it is by default true. So you must write a code in JSP page to synchronize the multiple client threads. So if it is false, the JSP container sends the client request one at a time. Info equal to text. It is a text string that is incorporated into the compiled JSP page. Error page, a path to a JSP page that JSP sends the exceptions to handle. So here we give the relative URL of the JSP which handles the exception thrown in the current page. Content type, it can be MIME of text or HTML, character, or it can be any of the MIME type. And next we have is error page. So is error page, if it is true, it means the page is handling the exception. So this is the one of the feature or attribute of page directive to handle the exceptions. And we'll see all these attributes with practical demonstration. But knowing these attributes and the usage of it is very important. This page directive is also one of the important element of JSP page. Next is the include directive is used to include a file during the translation phase. So we have already seen there are different phases in JSP architecture, which involves translation phase as well, where all the text will be converted to println and the Java class will be converted. So during that phase, it will include the file using this include directive. What it says is we'll see much in detail by this syntax. It will just include another page. This directive tells the container to merge the content of another external files with current JSP during the translation phase. So creates the contents of the included file as a part of JSP page. So after including, it itself will be a part of current page. Inserts a part of the code that is common to multiple pages. Basically, it can be common to multiple pages. We can use for a header page or footer pages. For all those JSP pages to form a template for any of the web application, we can use this include directive. It includes the file during compilation of JSP into servlet. This is the basic syntax. So basically there is a file attribute which takes relative URL. The URL is the path where the JSP is present to be included within the current page. Next is the taglib directive. So the taglib directive imports a custom tag into the current JSP page. So we'll see more in detail and the practical demonstration on how to create this taglib directive, because this is one of the major advantage and important feature in JSP where we create custom tag based on requirements of our own to use in JSP page. It associates itself with a URI to uniquely identify a custom tag. So we'll see how it is happening. Associates a tag prefix. It means we can give any name to the tag. As it is custom tag, you can give any name for the tag to be prefixed. And a taglib directive declares that JSP page uses custom pages. So you must also use taglib directive before you use the custom page. It should be a unique name, and this is the syntax which says the taglib name should be there after scriptlet which start with @ following URI which takes the URI of your taglib file. So that is TLD file. We'll see that in future slides of our training how this syntax is used with practical demonstration. And there is a prefix. As told, you can give prefix for your own tag on specific name what you want to give as called as custom tag. Next are the JSP actions. So this is also one of the element which the JSP says JSP actions. We'll see what are there in this JSP actions. It performs tasks such as insertion of files, reusing beans, forwarding a user to another page, and instantiating objects. So these are the tasks performed by this element, that is JSP actions. For performing these tasks, it has many actions with it. We'll see what are those actions. First thing, this is the basic syntax. It always starts with JSP colon, following with JSP action and then attribute. So first action in JSP is JSP include. The include says it includes a static resource or a result from another web component. The syntax is it has got page which tells it will have relative URL of the page which it has to include within the page, and there is a flush attribute which is true or false. So this attribute is also used along with it, where the flush Boolean attribute determines whether the included resource has its buffer flushed before it is included. Next is the JSP forward action. So here it forwards a request to a HTML file, JSP page or a servlet. So it is just forward. Whenever you use this action in your JSP page, it will forward whichever page you have used to that specific destination. So this is the JSP syntax where we have page equal to relative URL. We have to specify the path of the page which you have to forward it. And next following that we have a param, that is defining a parameter to be passed to an included or a forwarded page. So you can pass the parameters for the page which will be included or also the page which will be forwarded using this JSP param action. JSP plugin, this is also one of the useful which causes the execution of an applet or a bean in the specified plugin. So this is the basic syntax. Even this has got many attributes in it, which is having archive, align, height, width, all the plugin attribute related details in it. So you can specify all those in these attributes. Next we have JSP actions. The JSP actions, what we have is use bean. So this bean will instantiate or reference a bean with a specific name and scope. So this bean tag or a bean action which we use in JSP can be used whenever we want a Java class to be invoked and use its properties. So the use bean element locates or instantiate a Java bean component. So this is the basic syntax. So its the actions are always followed with JSP colon with the action name use bean here following ID equal to bean instance name. So this ID is nothing but the instance name of your Java class. So using this instance, you can access all the variables or the methods inside the Java class. It has got even the scope defined as an attribute in it, which says page, request, session or application. Each has got its own significance. Page, whenever you can use the bean within a JSP page, then then you can use this page. Or request, you can use the bean from any JSP page processing the same request until a JSP page sends a response to the client or forward the request to another resource. So you can use the request object to access the bean, for example, request.get attribute. So a session, you can use this in the same session as the JSP page that created the bean. Application, you can use the bean, the same application as the JSP page that created the bean. The bean exists across an entire JSP application. And any page in the application can use the bean if you use the scope as application. So these are the different scope which defines or tells the usage of the bean, whether it can be used throughout the application or a specific session or for a specific request or for a specific page. Then we have a class. This class is nothing but the package or the location or the complete path for your Java class. And then we have a bean name, where you can give any name for signifying your Java class, and then we have a type of it. Java actions following, we have a JSP set property. This property will work along with UseBean JSP action which we saw in earlier slide. So this property is used to set a bean property value or any kind of values using this property within the JSP page. And this is the syntax where we have a JSP action as set property with name attribute bean instance name. So here if you see, this instance name will be the same instance name created in useBean action which we saw earlier. So which using this instance we can access the properties defined in Java class. So The star here, if you see, there is property equal to star. It means that it will store all the values of request parameters in bean properties. The names of bean properties must match the names of the request parameters. In that case, you can just use this star. But if you want to match specific property of your Java class, then you have to use these property equal to property name. Next is the get property. This is just to get the value using the get property or the methods in your Java class. So here you can get the values of those properties using this get property. It insert the value of the bean property into the response. So get property again as name equal to bean instance, because this get and set property actions will work with use bean action. So the same bean instance which has been initiated created by use bean action will be used in these two actions, name equal to bean instance name and then property, whichever the property name you have defined in your Java class. Next we have implicit objects of JSP. So here you can see the implicit objects. There are total around, I guess there are 9. Yeah, there are 9 implicit objects in the JSP where you can use in your JSP page. So these 9 are, you can see it is out, page, request, page context, exception, application, session, config, response, and request. So these are the 9 implicit objects of JSP. We'll see each one of it in our further slides. So implicit objects are the built-in objects provided by the JSP. So built-in matlab, it means that the built-in objects are within the JSP container which you can use in your JSP page. The specification to provide ease of access and functionality. Implicit objects are Java objects that the JSP container provides to a developer to access them in their program using Java beans and servlets. There are 9 implicit objects of JSP which we have seen earlier. First one is out. So out tells that the out object is used to write to the output stream, the out object as page scope. So this will be used to write anything in your output stream. So the specific out object is available for each JSP page. So this implicit object is there in every JSP page you create and it is handled by JSP container. So it is used to write anything for your output stream. Next is the request. The request is used as a reply to the request from the client. Request scope is an instance of JavaX servlet package from javax.servlet.servlet request interface. What it does is it encapsulates the request coming from the client and being processed by the JSP. It is passed to a JSP by the container as a parameter of the JSP service lifecycle method. It has a scope of request. The response, it is used as a reply to the request from the client. This object is used by the page scope. Session, it again says the session object represents session created for the requesting client. Sessions are created automatically and a new session is available in even when there is no incoming session. So the session object is of type HTTP session which is there in the package javax.servlet.http and as a scope of session. Application. So application object, it says that it is available to all clients. It shares data on all application pages. The application object can be used to share data, log messages, track user hits or access server information. Config, the config says it is the object of servlet config. So servlet config interface for the JSP page, and it is from package javax.servlet.servletconfig. And final is the page. This says that it is an instance of the page implementation servlet class that is processing the current request. So it is of type lang.object. It's of java.lang.object and has page scope. The page scope means that the attribute set for page scope will exist only for that current page. So next is the page context. It says the provides a single point of access to many of the page attribute and is convenient place to put the shared data within that page. Therefore, since the shared data is put in this, it can be accessed by many pages. And again, this is from the package javax.servlet.jsp.page context as a scope of page. So if you see, all these implicit objects are from servlet APIs. These are all present within the servlet APIs. Next is the exception. This is very useful in handling the exception in JSP. The exception object is used to hold all the values of exceptions generated in the application or a page, current page. So this object of throwable class. This is of object of throwable class. So basically we see all these implicit objects working in our coming practical demonstration. Next is the JSP declaration. So JSP declarations. In this, we see that JSP declaration is a scripting element of JSP. So it provides a mechanism to define variables and methods. Declarative statements are placed within scriptlet with exclamatory mark. We have seen the syntax, and this is the syntax for declaring anything within the JSP. Its symbols and always end with a semicolon. Declares a variable or method valid in the scripting language used in the JSP page. So all the variables or the method declarations which are there or used in JSP are declared within this scriptlets followed with exclamatory mark, and that we call as declaration or scripting element of a JSP page. The syntax is very similar. Scriptlet followed with exclamatory mark, and the declaration, you can declare any number of variables, any number of methods within a single line followed with semicolon. Next is JSP expression. So this is also one of the scripting element of JSP page. It contains an expression valid in the scripting language used in the page. Inserts values directly into the output. So whatever you have within this expression, it will be directly shown in your output after execution of that expression. So an expression element contains a scripting language expression that is evaluated, converted to a string and inserted into the response where the expression appears in the JSP page. The syntax is also very simple. The scriptlet is with equal sign. There's no space in between. Equal sign, after which you give an expression followed with semicolon. JSP scriptlets. So scriptlet is also one of the scripting element. It contains a code fragment valid in the scripting language used in the page. The scriptlets are executed at request time when the JSP container processes the request. Use any of the implicit objects or any object declared with a JSP use being element. Consists of valid Java code snippets that are enclosed within these scriptlet symbols. So anything so far or whatever we have seen, anything has to be written regarding any business logic or Java piece of code it always start with these scriptlet symbols. So the declaration, the page directives, actions of JSP, Java business logic, Java code, everything need to be written within this scriptlets. So this is the basic generic syntax. And next we have custom tags. So before going to custom tag, let's look into all those elements and actions and directives, declarations, all those within a single example showing the so far tutorial or training what we have read in a single JSP page. So to begin with, we'll go for a practical demonstration with a simple JSP page. So for JSP page, the environment setup requirement is you need to have JDK installed. For latest versions, you have to have 1.6 or above. And server, you can have any server, but currently in this training, we will be using Tomcat latest version 7.0, and there are other versions also coming up. You can even take latest versions, but it's always better to take the higher versions, Tomcat 7 or higher of it. So once it is all done and set installment, you have to set the path in class path variables, the Java OM for JDK and Tomcat Catalina OM in environment variable of my computer, and that is the basic setup for running your JSP. And this is the Eclipse where we use for demonstration. So JSP is a web application. So we need to create a dynamic web application project. So dynamic web project, you can give as JSP as in we are doing and showing all the examples for so far what we have read. The JSP example will be the project name. So if you see the Tomcat Apache has been selected with higher version, we'll click finish. And once you are done with, this is the basic structure of your JSP. So it shows you the Java resources having source folder within which you place all your Java files or Java bean. If required, we can make use of that in our JSP. We will also see and show the usage of Java bean in your JSP. How you can access the Java bean properties within your JSP. We will even see that as an example. And then you have web content, which has got meta-inf and web-inf. In web-inf, we have a lib folder which will have all kinds of jars needed for your web application, and the custom TLD files, that is taglib directive files, are placed within this web-inf. We will see that in custom tag training next slide. So in this web content, we place all our JSP page. You can create your own custom folder to place your JSP page for better readability and the source of Java files in this. So to begin with, we'll create a JSP page by selecting web content folder, right click, new, and there is a JSP file option. So select this JSP file. You can give a name as hello. Next, and this is the basic syntax what it will generate once you create the JSP page. And if you want to use this template, you can go for it. If you don't want, you can uncheck it. So we'll have an empty JSP page created. Once it is created, you can start coding. JSP, as told earlier, it's a basic HTML page. You can start with HTML tags. So here you have an HTML tag. You can give an header stating that hello, Once head is done, within head you can even give the title which comes to be specified within your HTML page. And this is a basic HTML page. So now in order to start our actual JSP declarations of adding scriptlets, elements, what we saw, implicit objects, we'll begin with the page directive. So if you remember or recall the scriptlet, this is the scriptlet which is used for your JSP page. So here within which you have our page. This is the directive, one of the directive in your JSP. In this, if you see, there are many attributes. We have already seen each and every attribute definitions, what it means. Auto flash, buffer by default 8 kilobytes, content type, text or HTML, error page, all these attributes. So we'll see usage of it one by one. So let me use this import. We'll import a package called java.util.date. So once it is done, this is the page declarative, how you declare the page directive. And next, after head, we can have a body of HTML tag where we put our JSP page. Okay. Here inside this body, I will use one more expression scripting element. We just saw that. So for anything, we need to have scriptlets. Here, I'll just write hello. We need to show an expression. So expression is the scriptlet followed by equal sign. And here I'll give new date. So the date is imported using page directive import attribute, and we are making use of that within this expression tag. This is a scripting element. We saw the syntax of it. It is just a scriptlet followed with equal sign. There should not be any space in between. And to show the output, we'll just have hello from JSP page. Today's date is. Yeah, once this is done, you can save this file and then execute it. So how will you deploy this JSP page? Just right click on it, run as, run on server. So this will ask for your Tomcat server. So the JSP is the JSP-example is the project which we are using right now. It will be configured in your server once you start running it. So this is how you deploy and configure in the server to run your JSP applications. So once you're done with finish, it will start the server and show up the started. It will show the result in your browser. So here if you see there is hello from JSP. Today's date is Tuesday, Jan 12, and this is the time, and this is the Indian Standard Time of 2016 as the year. So if you see this date, this has been evaluated in your expression tag of your JSP. If you see this JSP, See, this is the expression tag which has been evaluated once the page when it got executed, and then it is showing up in your result page. So this is the simple JSP page. Now to see more in detail, let us put some more directives and elements of another directive, that is include directive, which will again start with scriptlets and include. So what will this have? This will have a file attribute which will take the file which we need to include in this current JSP. But since we don't have any other JSPs created, we can't include anything. So what we'll do, we'll go and create one more JSP. We can give JSP page as include JSP and then finish. So once this JSP has been created, you can write some HTML code. So title you can give as demo for include directive, and you can include some body content to show up in your JSP page. So now this is another JSP which we have created. Going back to the hello JSP, if you remember, we have included this include directive which takes file as an attribute. With URI, what we have to give is the JSP page which we want to include in this page. So the page what we have created was hello.jsp. Since it is in the same folder, we need not give any path here. Just give the JSP file name directly and then save. Once it is done, we can execute this hello.jsp, run on server. See that this page has got the content from include jsp.jsp. So where the hello.jsp we have called include.jsp and it has been included within this JSP. So you can see here after execution, you can see that the other JSP has been included within the current JSP. So now we have seen two directives, that is page directive and include directive. There is one more directive called taglib directive which we can see in more detail after knowing custom tags, which we are showing up in further course slides. Now here we can even more explore the attributes of page directive. So here there is some attribute called error page. So how will this work is, it will take the error page where we give the URI for the page which is handling exception for calling page. Now for that we need to create one more JSP page. For example, call it as error JSP. So once you're done with, you get a basic template. Now here there is a page directive which has got many attributes we have already discussed here: language, content type, page encoding, and also there is something called is error page. So this is a boolean attribute. So it is by default false. When we make it as true, what will happen is here in scriptlet, it will give us exception object which is an implicit object of JSP of throwable class. So this is an implicit object. It will be available only when you make this isErrorPage attribute as true. So when you make this isErrorPage attribute as true, then you get this exception implicit object, using which we can print the stack trace of exception which has occurred. So it has got many overloaded methods. So inside which we can use one more implicit object of HTTP servlet response. So this response is also an implicit object for JSP, which we can use it for printing it in JSP. All the exception which ever throws, that can be printed in your JSP using this getWriter. So now here in this page, what we are doing is we are setting isErrorPage to true to tell that this page will handle the exception thrown from your calling page. So here the calling page is hello.js. So there is an attribute of the same page directive called error page. So this error page will take an URI or the page name which will handle the exception. So in our case, error.jsp is the file which will handle the exception, and we are done with declaring the exception page. Now we have to throw some exceptions from this page so that the error page called error.jsp will be invoked. So for that, what we'll do is, let's write some Java code for it within the scriptlet tag, which will say declare an int I equal to 0 and write something like if I is equal to 0, then throw runtime exception. So within which you can pass error. So what does this indicate is we are just writing a small snippet which shows you how exception is handled. So here I think there is no parameter value passed. So we just need to remove it through it should be actually new. We are throwing an exception of instance runtime exception. It has got an overloaded, not overloaded, it is a constructor which takes string. So here we can give anything. So here we are throwing a new instance of runtime exception just to demonstrate how the error.jsp.jsp will be invoked whenever we throw any exception from calling JSP page. So this is how the attribute called error page will work. Now let's see and execute this for actual implementation. So when I execute and run this on server, if you see here, it has thrown runtime exception. It has also shown the message what we had passed to the runtime exception constructor. And it has given all the print stack trace which we had printed using exception implicit object. So if you want to see that in error.jsp page, you can see here we have used this exception implicit object and printed the stack trace. So therefore, whenever the exception is thrown in this hello.jsp, it will search for the error page which is handling your exception, and then There we can handle the exception where we are printing in stack trace. You can either handle the exception using try catch block or in any user message you want to show up. So this is how exception handling is done in JSP, and you can, as I said, you can use try catch block in the error.jsp page, or within this page you can use try catch block for handling the exceptions. So this is some of the attributes of page directive. Now we can see some of the action tags used in JSP. For example, there is an action called include. So we'll see how include action works. We can include that action anywhere in this JSP. So we can include after calling this. The JSP action always begins with JSP colon include. So this has got the page which takes the page to be included. So we already have some include.jsp. We can include that inside this JSP page. So here, when we execute this file, we can see that there are two statements repeating. This has come from include directory. Since I've used the same JSP page even for action, so it has been called for action with the same content. So content, you need not worry. The order in which we have included the action after hello from JSP and today's date. So if you see here, the include action has been invoked after this line, whereas directive has been called initially. So we are calling the same JSP, so the content is coming. The order in which it has executed is in this way. So this is the directive invocation, and this is the JSP body, and after which we have this JSP include action invocation. So this is how include action will work. The same way how include works, we can also see how forward action works. For that, let me include the forward action before hello from JSP. So how, even for that, it's the same syntax, JSP colon forward. So once you have this, even that has got a page attribute, include JSP.jsp. Here if you see what does this forward action does, it has been discussed earlier that this will just forward to this page and stops there. Whereas include will include the content and continue processing this current JSP. But this forward action will just go to this JSP and stop there. So here what should be our output? Once the include has included its content using this include directive, we have the forward action calling the same JSP and thus stops there. We'll again execute and see. So here if you see, this is the statement which is coming from include directive. But after that, we are calling the forward action. So it has taken precedence of forward action and gone and just executed the JSP inside this content. Whatever is the content here, that's what is shown here, and it has stopped here. It has not processed further because once the forward is done, it will not come back again for this current page to execute. So these are the some of the actions used in our JSP. There are other actions very important. How we can use bean action. We had seen earlier there was a use bean tag action which was used along with set property and get property for the usage and access of any Java source file. You see that how it works. So for that, there should be a Java file created. So inside the source folder, you can just create a Java file called student bean. It's a Java bean. So inside this, you can create some private variables like first name of the student. Sorry, it should be the string. Last name and then age of the student if you want one more to be included. Let's have only 2 here, and after declaring this we can have respective getter and setter properties. So generate getter and setter properties, and these methods can be included or invoked through JSP. Let's see how it works. So here we have just created a student bean class. This is a Java class having two properties with getter and setter methods. Once we are done creating a Java class, we can create new JSP file which can handle the action. What we are going to see is use bean action. So once it is done, there is an action tag of JSP called use bean. So it has got an attribute called ID, which is nothing but the instance name for your Java class. And here the Java class is student bean. So therefore we can write student bean instance. Again, the name here can be anything which gives unique name for your Java class. Once you're done with this, there is another attribute called class where you need to give complete path to locate your Java class which you are going to use this. So it should be inner bus, inside which there is student B class. So you're done with defining your use bean action tag. You have an ID which you have named as student bean instance, and this instance will be initiated with the Java bean class called student bean when this action tags get executed. Now to use this tag, there is an action tag called JSP set property through which the values can be set to the Java bean class. So this property is the first name property which is present in the student bean class, and the name of it should be the same as the ID of your use bean action tag. So this should be the same presented in the name attribute of your set property tag. The set property will work along with the use bean tag, so the name attribute should indicate this ID of it through which the instance can access the property called first name. And here you can set the value of this property with the value attribute. There is a value called attribute within which you can specify the values to initialize your property. And there is another attribute called last name. Can be done the same way. The property is the last name, and the name remains the same because it is representing the ID of your use bean action tag. And this is the instance of this student bean class. And the value can be function. So once the set property is done, this can be placed within the use bean tag, or even it can be present outside. So here it says we are initiating the use bean or the student bean instance, and then using that to set the values which are defined here inside the properties first name and last name. So what will this do? This will execute the set method of the student bean for initiating these values. Next, in order to get the values, once the values are set through set property action tag, the same way you can even get those values using get property. So the property what you want to get, you can mention. So here if you want to get name, and again the same thing, the ID should be replicating here within your name attribute of your get property as well. The get property and set property works along with your useBean action tag. So once you're done with, you can do the same thing with your last name. So these things are got within these properties. We can show it in JSP page by giving some message telling this is the first name from student B. So the same follows for this. The last name from student B. So to end the tag, so you're done with this useBean action JSP file, which demonstrates the usage of useBean tag or action tag used in JSP to access any of the Java file mentioned within the class by initiating with the instance providing in the ID and accessing the same using set property and get property action tags. And these are the properties in your student bean class. You can again go to the package and check with the student bean. So this is the student bean class, Java class, which was created earlier, and it has got these three properties. Now only the first name and last name are being set and got. So using the setter and getter methods, now it can be executed. So select the useBean action JSP, run on server. So once it is executed, you can see this is the first name from student bean class. The property first name has been initialized as Jeff from the JSP page, and the same is got using get property and shown here in this JSP page. So the setter and getter methods for the properties will be accessed using these action methods. So these are the output which shows the action tags. So useBean, set property and get property. So this is how you access the Java class using the action tags. So within this, we have seen many action tags as well as implicit objects like exception and out. There are still many more implicit objects. So here, most of the actions and tag directives are covered along with implicit objects. We can now go to the topic to see what is next. So next is the custom tags. Here the custom tags are nothing but a user-defined JSP language element. So the tags so far, whatever we saw till now in the JSP, all are provided from JSP to develop any kind of JSP page. So those are not custom, instead those are all built-in provided through APIs. But these Custom tags are user-defined, which the user can program by themselves. So, when a JSP page containing a custom tag is translated into a servlet, the tag is converted to operations on an object called a tag handler. And the web container then invokes those operations when the JSP page servlet is executed. So there is the tag handler which is used using this custom tag. The features of custom tag: customized through attributes passed from the calling page, access all the objects or implicit objects available to JSP pages. So even these custom tags can access all these objects and implicit objects what we saw available in the JSP pages. So user-defined custom tags can have access for all these. Can modify response generated by the calling page. The custom tags can even modify the response and then show the response. Initialization, instantiating, and communicate with each other using JavaBeans component nested within one another for providing complex interactions within a JSP page. So provide a mechanism to be a web programmer to reuse and encapsulate complex recurring code in a JSP application. This is one of the important feature for custom tag, where the recurring code can be placed within the user-defined tags and reused in the web programming. So here you can, based on the requirements, you can code your custom tag and accordingly you can function it for all your recurring code, which can be used as a template or a protocol in your applications. So next, developing a custom tag. This will follow many steps. There are some 4 steps which we need to follow while developing any kind of custom tag. Those are: develop a tag handler, develop the tag library descriptor, which are called as .tld files. So you have to develop .tld files. Before that, step 1 is develop a tag handler. Step 3 is include the tag library in a JSP page. To use the custom tag, you have to include the tag library directive. So this is one of the directive of the JSP page, which we can see in the practical demonstration of this custom tag. There is a deploy the applications. Once you have included your custom tag using the tag library, you can run your application after deploying it. So these 4 steps are followed while developing any kind of user-defined or custom tags. So develop a tag handler. So here you need to develop a tag handler where the java x.servlet.jsp.tagext package will provide the classes and interfaces that we can use to develop tag handlers. So any kind of tag handlers to be developed, this package will provide all the classes and interfaces. So this is the basic structure where you can see the JSP tag is topmost, followed with tag, and then there is a body tag and iteration tag. Iteration tag has got again tag support. So tag support is further with body tag support. So then there is a simple tag and simple tag support which has been added in later version, that is JSP 2.0 onwards. So these are the classes which are required to be extended by any custom tag class to create the tag handler class. So currently we have these many tags which are used for creating custom tags. So here these are the lifecycle methods which are used within the custom tag class which you can get by extending any of the classes which we saw earlier provided by the package in Java X Servlet, what we saw earlier. So here there are methods like do start tag, which is the beginning and initial method which gets invoked whenever the start tag is encountered in the container by the JSP. So wherever we define this do start tag and it starts finding the start tag, this do start tag will method which will get executed, and after which it follows with that set body content. So within the tag, whatever you give as a body content, this tag will get executed, and do init tag will initiate for the body, and after tag after executing the body of your tag, and do end tag are after all the invocation on the tag handler which will get completed, after which do end tags will get invoked. So finally after using it, it will get released, and as you can see the iteration tags are in do after tags. For all these tags you can get this method, and body tag which again extends iteration tag will give set body content and do init body. So by default these methods will be used for creating custom tags. So once the tag has been extended with any of the class which we saw in the hierarchy of the tag handler, the class after creating the Java class, tag handler class is nothing but a Java class which you define the custom tag in it. Second step is develop the tag library descriptor. So here the tag library descriptor will describe the tag name what you can give as you wish, which will be user defined tag name. So it defines a custom tag in XML format, provides information such as tag library version, name of the tag, description of the tag, and the name of the tag handler that implements the tag. Contains a root element called taglib, and within which various elements will appear. So this is the root element called taglib, and after that follows with tag, tag name, and class, everything. So next it defines multiple custom tag using tag elements within taglib element. So once we are done with defining the taglib library or descriptor, there is next thing is include the tag library in a JSP page. So whatever the tag library descriptor was defined, you need to include in your JSP page to get the custom tag function in your page. So that what will it do is inputs a custom tag into the current JSP page, associates itself with the URI to uniquely identify a custom tag. So this is the URI where the tag library descriptor will be located, and once it is located it will directly get invoked and content will be executed and put in your JSP page. Associates a tag prefix string that distinguish a custom tag with other tags. So as told earlier, prefix tag can be given for your own distinguishing. The prefix tag is again user defined. It's a string. You can specify anything you want. Taglib directive declares that the JSP page uses custom tags, names the tag library that defines them, and specifies their tag prefix. You must use the taglib directive before you use the custom tag in a JSP page. So to use this tag custom tag, that is custom tag taglib directive, we need to give this directive tag at the beginning of your JSP page before we start using it. You can use more than one taglib directive in your JSP page, but the prefix defined must be unique in each taglib directive what you define. So JSP syntax, this is the syntax of your taglib where it starts with striplet followed with @ and taglet. The URI will be the location of the taglet directory files, and the prefix is the user-defined prefix which can be given to your tags. So these are the three main steps required to create any kind of custom tag. And the last step is to deploy the custom tag. So before doing this, let's create the custom tag following these three steps. For that, we need to create a dynamic web project. Can be as custom tag. Once you are done with it, it's the same structure which we use for creating any kind of dynamic project. So custom tag first step creation was to create a Java class which extends the tag handler classes or interfaces which were provided by javax.servlet.tag.ext. So let's create a Java class extending the class called simple tag handler class. So we can give the class name as custom tag, and this class should extend any of your API classes or interfaces. Now this demo we can show with simple tag support. So this class, when we extend it, it gives us a do tag method. So here you can define the tag content, what should be present within the tag, within the custom tag. So in order to show that, small demonstration is we can use a JSP context object. There is a get JSP context. So this will give an instance of JSP context, out of which the get out will give an instance for JSP writer. So this JSP writer instance will be used to write any kind of output inside the JSP page. So in order to demonstrate the custom tag, we can give the simple message which prints on your JSP page using this println. You can just say this is from custom handler class. So whenever we invoke the custom tag, this message will be shown. So this is the simple custom tag extending simple tag support. So within which we have just shown this message to be shown inside the JSP page. So this is the first step, and the next step is to create the tag library descriptor, and that should be there within the web INF. So here you can just create a simple file giving custom.tld file. So any tag library descriptor file should be with extension .tld. So once you're done with this, you can just define, which always begins with taglib and then has an elements of XML.tag, within which there is a tag name specifying the name of the tag. So here you can give any name what you want. So here is the tag name which specifies the custom name. So here it can be anything. So let's give custom tag. So once the name of the tag is given, the next is the tag class. So this tag class is nothing but the path where the tag handler class is present. So now case it is present within the InnoBus package. The class name is custom tag.java. So this is the tag class, and here once it is done, we can give the name as custom.tld, and this is the second step where we follow creation of tag library descriptor. And another thing to be noticed, that here there is a warning because the tag has been created within default package. So we can just create a package with com.innobus which we have given, and then place it inside this. So here you have a custom tag within this package. Once you are done with description of tag lib, there is one more tag called body content. So here when we don't have any body defined in the custom tag, we can just give empty. So this says there is no body content to be accessed within your custom tag. And this is the second step which you have to follow, creation of .tld file within the web INF. So once it is done, the next step is inclusion of this tag library descriptor within the JSP file. For that, you can create a JSP file. Custom.jsp. So once this is created, if you remember, for inclusion of your custom tag, you need to define your tag library tag lib, that is nothing but tag library descriptor directive. So there is the tag lib directive. This was the one directive which we were discussing earlier. You need to give, which has got attributes called prefix. This prefix can be anything. So here I'm giving CT which says custom tag, and once prefix is done, you have URI which locates your web INF, within which we have custom tag defined. So that is there inside web INF slash custom tag. So this is the path. So you can just remove this. This will not be required. So this is web hyphen is a folder, and then slash within which the TLD file is placed. That is this path. So web INF inside which we have placed custom.tld. And this is very much required to use any of your custom tags. And tag lib directive will come with prefix and URI for locating your tag library descriptor. Once you have included and located, next thing is usage of your custom tag, where we are given CT as a prefix, and custom tag, if you see, it has come by default. So we have located the custom tag .tld, and inside which it has taken this tag name for your prefixed CT tag, and this is the custom tag. And once you're done with, so you can can so you can execute the JSP file. So these are the three steps followed. The first step was creating your tag handler class, which is nothing but your custom tag class, which extended simple tag support provided by Java X servlet.jsp.tagext. And this has to be used to get the methods like doTag, which will define your tag. And here we have just given the tag content as this is from custom handler class. This is just to demonstrate how the custom tag can replace the details or logic what you code within this Java class. And once this is done, the next step was to write the TLD file, which is the XML format file, which gives tag, taglet, and then within which there is a tag, name, tag class, the body content, which is empty currently. We just add tag, and then followed after this is inclusion of tag library descriptor within your JSP page using this taglet directive. So this will be the prefix. You can give anything, and then the URI wherever the TLD file is located. And once it is done, we can execute this file, JSP file, select it, run on server. So the error, if you see, here it is saying there is the taglet version missing inside the custom.tld file. So we need to give this element also. The taglet version here is 1.0 which is used. So we can just go and give here. So 1.0. After which we can even give a JSP version followed along with this, but that won't be required. So again, rerun the file. So it says JSP not found. So here the reason being is we even need to give the JSP version. So here if you see the JSP version is missing. So even this tag needs to be defined within that TLD file. These two are the mandatory files or elements for your TLD description. So here the JSP version is 2.0. Once this is done, you can again rerun this. And here you can see this is from custom handler class. So we have just executed the custom.jsp. If you see, it has got custom tag alone. And where is the message coming from? It is coming from the class where the message has been put. So basically, this tag has got name from TLD file, and TLD file will again locate your Java file, which will give the tag definition. So here if you see, within this tag we have given this is from custom handler class, and this is what will get executed whenever the custom tag will be invoked. And using these custom tags, anything can be defined, and that is the major advantage of using JSP for defining custom tags. So now we can even further move ahead and use how body content will work. So for that, for example, if this is the custom tag, which has got only tag in it. Now if you want any body telling this is the body content, for example, So to include this within the tag library descriptor, you need to first make changes within the first step what we follow, the custom tag class. So here we have to use a method called getJSPBody, and this will invoke with a parameter called writer. So here we need to pass an writer instance. So let's create that writer. So this part is completely for body content. So there is something called string writer. So we can pass this instance for invoke method. So here the instance what was created can be passed. What will this do is we can, for showing the output, we can use the JSP context dot get out, and this, using this you can use println, which can print on your JSP. What do you have to print? The body content what you get it from JSP. So that will be there within your string writer whenever you invoke the method. So we just need to print it in a string format. So what will this do is, there is a get JSP body method which gets invoked using string writer instance, and this will invoke and get the content of the body, and using this JSP context we are printing the data whatever we get, and we'll see how the body content works. So this, we made a change in Java class. Next is to make change in TLE file. So if you have seen last earlier, we didn't add any body content, so we just gave empty. Now if we give scriptless, if you include whatever the body content we give within the JSP. So let's go to JSP file, and here this is the body content will get executed and taken from the string writer when we invoke using JSP body. So this data will be processed within this toTag method when we do invoke by string writer, and string writer will get that data if we want to show it in a JSP page, and using toString we can just show the data whatever is got from the JSP page. So basically this is the custom tag, this is the start of the tag, and this is the body of the tag. Let's execute that. Using this custom JSP page. So here you see, first the custom tag, the head, or you can tell start of the tag has been executed, replacing the message what we have defined in the Java class, and further following it has taken the content from the JSP page and shown within the custom tag, and this is how the body will work and process in the custom tag and the class. So custom tag has also got many attributes in it. We can make use of it and then explore the things. So if we want to show the demo of that, for creating a message, we need to have an attribute defined. So for that, you can just create a private message which is of type string, and then do getter and setter for this. So once you have this in your tag handler class, what you can do is within this TLD file, there is something called attribute element. So through this attribute, you can pass the message. So you can have name as element within which you can tell message. So once this is done, how will this work is in custom.jsp file. Here the tag has got an attribute which we say message, and to which you can pass the value to the attribute. You can say this is attribute value, and once you're done with this, what happens is whatever is there within this value will be instantiated in your Java class, and it is defined the same way within this attribute. And now if you run the same, the message whatever you passed in this JSP file will be reflected. So did you see this? Carefully, the message from the attribute value has not been replaced. The reason being, let's see where is the problem. Here everything is fine. We have given an attribute value as attribute value. And if you go back to TLD file, it's also given the message should be processed. In custom file, that is custom Java file, we have this message hard coded. So this is the output which is showing now. In order to get the message value to be shown in the output, we need to pass the message. So this is the message we are trying to show the attribute value. So in order to show, we need to use this message within this toTag method. So therefore what happens is whatever the JSP attribute value is initialized using this message will get processed within this toTag, and using this out instance of JSP writer, we can just print it in JSP file. So after which is the same line for printing the body content. So if we see the JSP again, so there is a custom tag having an attribute value called message within valued attribute value. So this will get processed and shown your JSP now, and after which this is the body content will be processed. So this, let's see and run again. So once you see, you can see here the attribute value is coming from the attribute which we have specified in JSP custom tag, and this is the rest of the body content. This is how the attribute element in the taglib directory will work. By passing any custom message or any other values, you can test the attribute tag element of your custom tag. And these are the concepts of custom tag. We have seen the tag start, how it starts and includes the messages with normal or simple. So far we have seen this is a basic simple creation of custom tag, and you just prefix with CT and custom tag as the name of it. We have also seen the body content, how can be processed using the custom tag Java class. At last, we have seen the attribute element which can be used to pass the values from your JSP. So this is the concept all about custom tags, which are very important to know in your JSP course. Next, we'll see what is there in our course. So there is benefits of JSP over servlets. So we'll see what are the benefits of using JSP. There is write and maintain the HTML property, which means that writing and maintaining HTML is easier when compared to servlet. So you can write all the HTML code and then save that file as JSP, and it is still more easier to maintain in JSP. You have standard HTML tools which can be used in JSP but cannot be used in servlets, because servlets will all work under a Java class. Then there is an accessibility of HTML code accessible to non-Java developers. It means that HTML code can be developed by any non-Java developers. They need not know Java programming to code JSP file. So you just need to know HTML and you can just code the JSP pages. Whereas in servlet, you have to know the Java code for any kind of presentation or accessibility for HTML code. Therefore, the non-Java developers cannot work when you use servlet for developing HTML code. Next is very important, visual content and logic. It means that the presentation will be separated with the business logic when we use JSP. So JSP file can concentrate only on presentation, which we call as visual content. Therefore, there is a separation between both visual content and logic. Whereas in servlet, it cannot be separated, because within the Java servlet class itself, you need to write the presentation content as well as business logic. And next we have compilation. There is no need of compiling your JSP file. It will be taken care by JSP engine and servlet engine from web browser. So you need not have any compiler or the class path set to compile this JSP file. It's all done. And servlet, yes, it's a Java file. You have to compile explicitly. So these are few benefits over servlet. And we have come to the end of the course. Thank you. Here we come to the end of this training. Thank you.